Hello, hello, hello. How is everybody on this afternoon, this evening, wherever you may be watching from? It could be different time zones. And we're delighted to come to you today to bring you a retirement information session from the Zion Benefit Services Department of the African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church. My name is Darin Kent. I'm the Chief Communications Officer of the A.M.E. Zion Church. And listen, I am probably the last person that you would expect to come on and speak to our Elder Williams, who's the Executive Director of ZBS. But I think I come with an interesting perspective, novice a bit about where we should be with our 403B plans. And I'm going to be asking the questions that I believe most of you all have out there to the executive director, who has all the information that we need. So we're gonna hop in and talk about when will you be able to retire? How are you currently investing your retirement dollars? And are you maximizing all of your tax benefits inside your 403B plan? Listen, this is coming to you live from the A.M.E. Zion Church platforms, the Star of Zion platforms. We want you to click that like button right now. We want you to share this with your following and your church's following, and get everybody that needs this information to come on right now and to join us for this important discussion about where we need to be with the retirement information for our 403B plans by Zion Benefit Services Department of the A.M.E. Zion Church. This is just good information for anybody. I mean, even if they're outside the A.M.E. Zion Church, we'll be sticking to most of this information, but hey, they can log on too. They might gain some knowledge that they can take with them for years to come. So without further ado, I want to bring on the executive director of the Zion Benefit Services Department. His name is none other than Elder Darrell Williams. How you doing, sir?
I am well. Thank you so very much. I'm getting some texts from folks saying they're trying to get on. So, so I'm trying to send over some things to a couple of people if they can
Okay, well, while you do that, yeah, keep
I'm
texting them,
here.
keep getting them on, getting them on. Listen, they're gonna want to be in the place. Let them know right now that we are streaming live on Facebook. We're streaming on LinkedIn. We're streaming on YouTube. We're streaming on Twitter, even. And of course, we are streaming on the Netflix of the A.M.E. Zion Church, A.M.E.Z TV. Everything is live and in color right now for them to join this important discussions. Uh, I want to mention just before we begin that if anybody is watching this and has any comments or questions that they would love to pose to you, Elder Williams, or to me, or to anybody, or just give information, please do so. Put it in the chat. We'll put it on the screen and we'll take questions live through this entire discussion. So without further ado, I'm just going to yield to you, Elder Williams, for a bit. You let us know the information we need to know about the 403B plan, the ins and outs from Zion Benefit Services.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Brother Kent. Good evening, A.M.E. Zion, pastors, ministers, lay people alike, bishops, presiding elders, all who on this call. I was battling a cold all of last week, and my voice has been in and out. But I think we're good for now. If it doesn't hold up, we will do part 2 and part 3.
We'll get some AI going. We'll get some AI, artificial intelligence.
There you go. I mean, the idea tonight was really to kind of give you all of our ministers. We have had a plan in place for a number of years, and many people just aren't clear on how it works. And tonight I want to help give some clarity, answer some questions, as well as talk a little bit about the cost of retirement. What does it really look like for you and your family? How many years are you going to be working? There's a lot of dynamics in that whole area. I will say this. We had a little challenge today with our computer systems in my office. We had some crashes that went on. So they're being worked on. So I could not download or salvage some data I wanted to share with you online tonight. But we will open up a conversation in these 3 bullet points that were listed earlier. And then I will be very deliberate in terms of how I explain these plans, how they work. And then we'll have a part 2, which will get a little bit deeper dive into investment funds, how to invest, how to mitigate risk in the market, etc. There's so many different dynamics. And one of the biggest challenges people have nowadays is probably allowing too much information to creep into their mindset. There's so much noise out there. I mean, commercials, radio, TV, you name it. We see every single company in the world advertising why their mutual fund's best, why they're the better company, insurance company, mutual fund company, stock company, should you be involved in crypto, all these things that are out there. And yet we have a very volatile market right now that we're seeing because of the tariff potentials. They keep going even up and down there. And so we're watching all these types of scenarios, but you need to know that retirement planning really can be done without having to really deal with navigating extremes in the marketplace as a whole. So having said that, I want to start basically, there's 3 questions that were listed on the flyer that Mr. Kent had there for us. And one of them, I think, can you put it on the screen real fast and put those questions up there for those who are watching? There it is. Okay. There's just, when will you be able to retire? Big question. How are you currently maximizing your retirement dollars? And the third one is, are you taking advantage of all the tax benefits inside of a 403B plan? And I want to kind of deal with these areas directly on tonight. I'm going to ask that you take some notes. You mentioned if you have questions, feel free to call. Because if you have questions to call, then you'll be able to not call. You can type it in the chat, and we'll answer your questions tonight. But the first one is, when will you be able to retire? That's kind of a big question. There's some mindset shift there. Our parents, whether they were pastors or not pastors, if they worked for a company 20, 30, 40, or even our grandparents 50, 60, 70 years ago, think about it. They had one job. They worked for one company. They bought one house. They literally did this, and they were within, their budget. They lived. They paid off the house. They got a pension and Social Security, and then some few years after that, they died. So it was very easy mentality planning for retirement. Beyond that as well, they usually did not buy a second home. They generally did not refinance the home that they were in. So their bill structures, their budget was very easy to manage. So there was a different mindset. Nowadays, because of the fear of Social Security, having the possibility of allegedly running out of money, people not having pension plans available to them where they work. So when can you retire? And let's keep this in mind. Several years ago, Social Security was designed. It was designed for people to be able to work up to a certain point. And think about this for a moment. If you have Social Security or had Social Security, it was designed to tell somebody if you worked for 30 or 40 years, you put in X amount of dollars for all those years, you retire at 62 or 65 years old, you got a paycheck till you died, and it stopped. But it worked very easily because Social Security was always meant to be a supplement. Think about this. For 20, 30, 40 years, for the bulk of the years Social Security has been in effect right after the Great Depression, you had 4 or 5 people paying money into the Social Security system and only one taking from it. So you had plenty of dollars funding Social Security. When someone retired, they got their check, and life expectancy was a lot less back then. 6, 7, 8, 9 years later, they died. So you fund it for 40, you pull money out for 7, the system worked. Well, now we have almost a 1-to-1 ratio. What that means, for every one person putting money into Social Security, you have one person taking from it. And that's why the federal government has been warning us that, because we're living longer. And come 2035, that's called a crossover. That's a point where the amount of money that comes in is equal to that what goes out, and that's where the problems will occur. Now, Social Security will never go broke because they will make certain that the funding is done through the government for a period of time. What they will do, however, that we've already seen occur, is they'll make it more attractive to wait till you start getting your benefit. That's why you get a much larger benefit at age 70 and a much smaller benefit at age 62. They would love it if everyone took the money at 62 because they can pay out a much lower benefit. The danger of that, now they got to pay it for a longer period of time. I mean, the odds of, contrary to popular opinion, even for black folk, yes, us, we are living longer too. Thank God for that. There was a time that we knew that we would not live past 71, 2, or 3 based on life expectancy. Even our numbers aren't great overall, but if you're 65 years old and healthy, and there's a good chance you'll see 80 or 85 or 90 years old. Therefore, the system, Social Security's got to pay out for a much longer period of time. So keep that in the back of your mind as you think about planning. So the first question is, when will you be able to retire? And again, I apologize. I don't have slides to share with you because I do have a PowerPoint I would do to share. We'll do that part 2. So stay tuned for the part 2. We'll get that going very soon. So when you're able to retire, it's 2 things matter here. It's really up to you. However, it's your financial picture. So what does retirement look like for you? For a pastor, it might be more difficult because pastors, if you're a full-time pastor, you're saying to yourself, well, I can retire when I'm 70. Well, can you really? So the 2 biggest things that you must deal with for retirement is, what is your budget? What are your bills? Do you have a mortgage payment? Is your house paid off? If your house is paid off, you take a lot of pressure off of what your needs are in retirement. If you don't own a home and you're renting, that's going to be a payment or a bill that will be there for you until you pass away. So keep that in the back of your minds. Let's say, for example, you have a need per month of $5,000 per month, every single month. You need that while you're working or even while you're retired. If it's $3,000 or $10,000, it doesn't matter. If it's $5,000, but a large portion that it happens to be your mortgage or rent payment, and your mortgage or rent payment is not paid off for a number of years, you still need $5,000 per month. So think about that. When you're able to retire from a financial standpoint, you may not stop working or doing something, but when you can retire, it's a function of, do you have enough resources to generate income that will carry you for your entire lifetime? The great question there, how long you're going to live? No one really knows. God knows, that's it. But the thing we have to plan for is, what happens if you live to 85, 90, 95, or even 100 years old? Yes, we have to plan for that. When we do projections now, and by the way, in case you did not know, I am a licensed securities advisor, financial planner, and that's what I do, in addition, of course, running design and benefit services. But that's what I do every single day. And so we run projections for people, even for the life insurance plan for design and benefit services. We project that if someone gets to 90, 95, or 100 years old, the benefits will still be there for the life insurance. That's why we've structured our policy that way. But imagine for retirement, if you have a mortgage payment or you have high bills and you aren't sure where your income is coming from, you need to make certain that that income that you have coming in for retirement will be there for you and hopefully able to add in some inflation as costs of goods and services go up for the next 20 or 30 years. So therein lies the key question. How many years will you be retired? Nowadays, many people retire, their retirement years are as long as their working years. Think about it. You start working at 25 or 30 years old if you go to college first, and you may retire at 60 or 65. If you live to be 95, you're going to have 35 years of income need in retirement. Now, mind you, you won't spend as much money in those later years. We call them the go-go years and the slow-go years. If you retire at 65, you're going to be running around having fun, traveling, probably from 65 to 75 or 80, but then things will slow down dramatically. However, your income need won't change. Why? Because there's things called long-term care might kick in. You may have to go to a facility at some point in time. You may have to deal with a nurse coming in to take care. So it doesn't change the financial needs. So I want you to keep them in your minds. $5,000 per month. If that's what you need per month, the biggest question is, where's it going to come from? How long is it going to last? And how do you generate $5,000 per month? So I'm going to give a couple of examples. And again, tonight's more of a lecture, and I'll answer questions later on. But the challenge is, think about if you need $5,000 per month, that's $60,000 per year. Over a 10-year window of time, that's $600,000. Over 20 years, that's like $1.2 million. So essentially, that's the amount of money that will come through your hands from 65 to 85 years old. The question becomes, where's it going to come from? Where is it going to come from? So before you look at where it's coming from, let's look at what it costs to retire. Then I'm going to deal with some areas of the investment plan that we have available for all our members, our church pastors, etc. So think about this. For every $100,000 you have saved up, be it in a 401k, IRA, it doesn't matter. A withdrawal of 5% of that is $5,000 per year. If you have $1 million saved up, wherever you have it put, just forget where it's at right now, at a 5% withdrawal rate, that's $50,000 per year. Beginning to get the picture? Because essentially, that money's got to last you for your entire livelihood. Now, again, if you've done a great job of having your mortgage paid off early and you've got no mortgage payment, that takes a lot of pressure off how much you have to save for retirement. And that's the whole key. If you build up this big pot of money, that's the key issue. Now, years ago, there was a commercial with ING. They said, what's your number? What's your number? What's your number? And that was the whole thing. Retirement planning became, what's your number? And the danger of that, people began saying, okay, I'll save up to $500,000 or $1 million through whatever sources. We'll cover sources momentarily, but we'll save up to get to this magical number. They show one person that had 2.3 million, one at 1.8 million, one at 600,000, depending upon their age. And knowing that whatever you built that number up to, you can take out roughly 5% per year to be able to justify or to maintain your income through retirement. This is key. This is so key. I had a client in just today, and they're doing quite well. They wanted to take out more than 5% per year. That's no problem. The danger is what happens in a year when their portfolio earns less than 5%. Now they're dipping into principal and future years of income. So we kind of help people manage, how do you do this? You never want to pull out more than you really need to based upon your current age and how many years you need those funds to last. So again, think about the pot of money. So the issue it went from what's your magical number to what's my income need. I need $5,000 per month to maintain my livelihood. I need $4,000 per month. I need $10,000 per month. If you're in New York, it might be $15,000 per month, or certain areas like that, or DC. But just know that the income need is greater than the magical number. And what we do is help people once they get to the number, how to maximize the income stream to last for your entire lifetime. So the cost of retirement, if you need $50,000 per year, it's got to come from several sources. Where's it going to come from? If some comes from Social Security, some from maybe a pension, some from your savings or investments or rental property, look at your income, see where it's coming from. Problem is, if people don't have anything saved up for retirement, therefore, that's why this call tonight. We're going to talk about putting monies into a retirement plan, a 403B type plan, which, by the way, for those who work for an outside corporation, is the same as a 401k plan. 401k, 403B, They're interchangeable. What's the difference? A 401k is for a, quote, for-profit corporation. You work for IBM, you work for Intel, you work for Amazon, 401k. You work for a school district, you work for a hospital, you work for a church, it's a 403b. They are really interchangeable. Brother Kent, you jumped on. Do you have a question? You're muted.
Yeah, I was muted just now. I'm listening to you, gaining all this information. I was thinking, I'm caretaking for my mother right now, and we're seeing exactly what you're talking about. Just the fact that her savings and her retirement plan and her pension and Social Security, all of that accumulated has to equal what she needs on a daily basis and a monthly basis. That there's an adjustment that needs to be done, right? So you do need to take into consideration the fact that, yes, my mother was living in New York, but then as you get older, you might need to move to a different location. We're seeing that more and more. People are moving, going to different areas of right? I would imagine that people are looking at it to say, listen, where can I live the rest of my years, right?
I'm glad you said that, because it's a difficult. I did a workshop several years ago in the A.M.E Zion Church for Yakima, one of the midwinter meetings, about living within your means, not your dreams. So to just kind of create a mentality of, there's a point where you just can't stay certain places for too long. I live in California, and unless it's difficult to live in California in certain areas, you can live anywhere and probably, but if you want to live where you want to live, it costs a lot to live there. So I'm glad you brought that up, because it does mean people will have to consider some relocations, of some sort, or different style. But the goal is, if you know you only have X amount per month coming in, and I don't care if you're a grandparent living with kids, or if you are a 65-year-old single having to do your own thing, your monthly amount that comes in, you've got to live within that budget, and then take into account, how do you factor in inflation? Because if inflation is at 3-4%, it's really higher than that now with certain things. So that impacts over time. $5,000 per month is $10,000 per month in 17 and a half years.
Wow. Look at that.
We tend to think of right now, I tell people all the time, someone says, I make $100,000 a year. So no, you make 81, because after taxes and all the stuff that hits it, Social Security, you really are making 80. You're not making 100,000 per year. Then your tithes too. So all that comes into play. So as we educate, just know that I'm going to really give people, in particularly in the church, our pastors, ministers who are trying to build the retirement funds, see the whole picture.
One other thing is, like, how early is too early, or how late is too late? Like, when should you really begin to start doing this 403b plan?
Great question. So, and I'm not going to, before I go on the 403b plan, any kind of retirement savings. Again, so let's say if it's 403b or you're working. So if it's 403b, yesterday, okay. Ideally, if you're 30, we have a pastor, I won't say what state, but they had some monies for some years back. I found those funds for them. They're thrilled to death right now, and we had it invested in such a way. And what he thought he had, it was really about 2.5, 3 times more than what he thought. We had invested in some funds that grew that much. Now, mind you, the markets right now, they're down a little bit. This is one of our pastors. He literally just kind of forgot. And so then our conversation, I said, but that's no money, because if you retire at 65, you're going to need, it to be about $1 million to spin off $50,000 per year of income at that time. Now, he's got enough years. So here's the kicker. Think about this. So if someone says, you know what, I'm still young, I can't afford to do a whole lot, but I got to start somewhere. So if, let's say, for example, you're putting in, let's say it's your 403b plan. This is a pastor putting in a 403b plan at $200 a month. This is an example. Okay. That's $2,400 per year at a 6% rate of return. In other words, they're earning 6% interest on their money. That's not guaranteed. That's just choosing some good mutual funds, etc. 6%, I think of that's a fairly low rate of return over time, but I'm going to give you the 6% number for a reason. $200 per month, $2,400 per year going in, making 6% per year. In 10 years, you'll have put in $24,000. It grew to $32,000. Hardly enough to live off of, but at least it's moving. Yeah. And let's go 30 years from now, you would have put into it 48, around $72,000. that same $200 a month in 30 years is growing to 195. So at
Okay.
least, so now you've got a decent chunk of change. You're saying, okay, I
Yeah.
got some money, so I know I can generate 5 or 10 grand of income in retirement with that chunk of change. Now, same exact amount of money, earning an 8% interest rate. This is kicker
Okay.
because you go from 6 to 8. That's only 2 percentage points. And I'm not going to go into detail tonight on investment funds. We'll do that in part 2.
Okay.
But if you're making 8%, and by the way, 8% of rate of return to me over time is achievable, because when I recommend investment funds, we deal with funds that have that kind of historical performance over a 10 or longer period of time. Yeah, there's a year or 2 or 3 where they're down, but over time, that's the historically over time. 8%, the same $200 per month. In 10 years, you put in 24, but now you got 36,000. In 30 years, you put in that same 90 something thousand. It's grown to 283. Same exact amount of money, same period of time, better rate of return.
Rate of return.
So,
Yeah, I see that. I see that.
so here's the challenge. If you start late, you're trying to make up time. You're like, I need to make 10% of my money.
Right.
So you take more risk
Yes.
to try to make. The danger of taking risk at the wrong time is that you can't afford to rebound from 2 bad years.
That's right. Can't.
Make sense?
Yeah.
And
No, I
so,
get.
so
Mhm.
that's the dynamic. So if someone starts off at whatever amount of money, putting money in at age 30, 25, 30, most 25 years old can care less. That's the least
Yeah,
thing they worry about.
they're not thinking about it. Right.
If they talk to me, they're putting something somewhere. I don't care where
Right.
you put it somewhere.
That's
But
right.
30, 35, you have to get serious. The bigger reason why, and then we're going to do a little segue momentarily here,
Mhm.
is that if your company and the A.M.Es in the church, we don't have a pension plan.
Wow.
I wish we did.
I wish we did
We
too.
don't.
Okay.
At one point in time, we called it a pension plan, but we discovered we didn't have it, because a pension plan requires a $5 million fund for long-term investing, and you'll be able to meet your promises long-term. Well, we didn't have that. This was way back when David Miller ran the program. So we had to shift it. And then when David Aiken took it over, we got rid of that language and went Zion Benefit Services. And then we realized we couldn't afford to keep paying out the benevolent fund, because many pastors could not prove what they made income from the church. Therefore, they weren't filing their taxes. And that's why we are doing what we're doing. So how come? Well, and I happen to be in favor of, at some point in time, I know it's being taped, I'm going to say it anyway, of the church getting to a place where we can sock away some serious dollars as a benevolent fund to subsidize pastors who don't have enough years to play catch up. Because nothing worse than going 25, 30 years, now you're 55 or 60 years old, you don't really have a big fund to retire off of, and you got to say, okay, I'll work 15 more years, maybe 20 more years. Now I've got to put a lot of money away to get to where I want to be. So that's where the dynamics come into play, and it gets very difficult. And so when you say when, you start as young as possible. So at the same time, if you say, okay, I've got 15 years left, and then I want to retire, you just got to do some serious planning. So maybe it means you're putting away a pretty good chunk of money. I mean, like, serious, saying, all right, you know what? I make X amount. I've got to put away $1,000 a month or $500 a month for the next 10, 12, 15 years. And then wherever I land at that point in time, I paid my bills off. I've been obedient with that. Then you're in a better position. So you start saying, okay, paying down debt, increasing income.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that was going to be my next question, which is, what do we do? Because most of our pastors are older, right? We have some younger pastors. They're coming up the ranks. They're hearing this as well, and I know that they're taking this information and they're taking heed to it, and they're going to make the adjustments as of right now. The 30-year-olds, even some of the 20-year-olds, but we're dealing with the 40s and up, for most of our pastors. And those, we don't want them to feel too discouraged. So I know you're going into different parts of what we can offer to be able to offer assistance and help in this area. So that's one of the ways we do it, is just that juggling, sitting down with a professional like yourself and able to work through those numbers and maybe putting away more than what you would have done if you were doing it early on. I hear that.
That's exactly correct. And I think, and again, so this is where you have to do a real, and again, when we go to general conference, I've heard it on the floor. The assumption is, the church could have done more, should have done more. It didn't happen the way we thought it would, based on budget. The list goes on. However, now, okay, reality checks in and say, okay, now I'm 50.
Right.
I'm 55. I want to retire at some point. So what can I do? And I'm glad that someone's thinking that, because the reality of it is the average age of our pastors is around that rate, that age. So that, and unless you are working a secular job, because many pastors, we have a lot of people who have secular jobs, so they've got another pension or retirement plan, Social Security, etc. But if you're working just as a pastor, you've got to get very serious now about how to put money away. So between the church as well as you putting dollars away will be key. So that's a good segue, because the cost of retirement, I talked about that. When could you retire? We've talked a little bit about that area. The third part is, where are you investing your retirement dollars currently? And this is a great question, because I think that there's a lot of ways, places we can put money. And I think that what happens is that the taxes, to me, are gigantic. That's a big area. There's a reason why 401k, 403b plans, the federal government allows us to put away a large amount of money pre-tax. You can put up to $33,000 per year if you're over age 60 into a pre-tax plan. And if you're over 50 years old, you can put up to $23,000 per year, because they call it what's called a catch-up provision. Before age 50, there's a limit. You only put in, I want to say it was $19,000 or $20,000 pre-tax. In other words, you put it in pre-tax, so you're saving taxes now, but you pay tax on it later on when you pull the funds out on the back end. So that's called qualified plan. So between your 401k, your 403b plan, your IRAs, even so, it's all pre-tax. That's before taxes. When you pull it out later, it gets taxed at that point in time. The reason the federal government loves these plans is because you're saving taxes now on the smaller contribution. The goal is that as it grows later, you pay tax on the back end when you're retired. So for the government, it's an endowment plan. Yeah, it's an endowment. I have a client right now, and they literally have no bills. And I want you to hear this carefully. No bills. They have a pension, Social Security, husband, wife, they have those coming in. They have really good income because they've got no bills. So between both of them, they've got over $100,000 a year coming in retirement, and they got a huge amount of money in their 403b plans, because they both were teachers and worked for a school system. The problem is, it put all this money in the plan, and it grew to a sizable amount. Now they're over 73 years old, and they have to pull money out, something called RMDs, and they're in a higher tax bracket. And so over the number of years of people putting monies away, and then you do really well, now the federal government says, hey, you got to pull it out from 73 on. We're going to tax it maybe even heavier, because it gets higher as you get older. So that's the dynamic. So they created the Roth IRA. The Roth IRA was created as a rebuttal to the heavy taxation on 403b, 401k plans later on in retirement. I love Roth IRAs, but they put a huge limit on how much you can put in. It's amazing. You put away $25,000 a year pre-tax into a 403b or 401k plan, but a regular Roth IRA, $7,000. Reason why? You fund with after tax, it grows tax-free, and then in retirement, it's all tax-free. What's the answer? Do a mixture of both. Have some pre-tax, some after-tax. The goal is to kind of just build your buckets of money up as much as possible, and preferably multiple buckets. You might have a pre-tax bucket, i.e. your 403b or your 401k plan. You may even have an after-tax bucket growing. You're putting contributions in both of those areas. So now you've got, from a tax standpoint, you're better off in each scenario. What I want to do is talk a little bit about our plan. Because if you're investing right now money into a retirement plan at work, you kind of know how it works already. But A.M.E. Zion Church, we went to Envoy back in, I want to say it was 2015, 16, somewhere in there, and met with them. They are a Christian-based organization. I actually was serving on the board. I flew to Denver with Dr. Aiken, and I forgot who else went, several years ago. And we made some promises to them. Usually I'm kind of transparent. We said, hey, we've got 1,000 pastors, 1,500 pastors. We're going to get them all on the plan. They're all going to enroll. And Envoy was like, we're going to create brochures and all this stuff. Whatever you tell them what to do. Well, it didn't happen. We didn't get that many people in the plan. And therefore, they really gave us a very highly structured plan with a very low fee structure on the assumption that we'd have a whole bunch of enrollments done.
Mm.
It didn't happen, and by no fault of their own. They spent a lot of money, resources, and so forth. So here we are now, and I've been meeting with them with a lot lately, and so I know we're going to increase enrollment because I know how it's supposed to work. So
Mm.
we do have the plan available for us. I asked Mr. Kent if he'd be so kind as to pull up the A.M.E Zion website, walk
Absolutely.
us through where to go to get to these questions.
Absolutely. So yeah, let me pull it on the screen right now. Okay, so this is amezion.org. AME Zion. Please make the switch from amez.org to amezion.org. This is where our website for the entire denomination is. We've combined over 12 different websites into one lovely, beautiful website. We can go to myriad of things on this website, but what we want to go to get to the ZBS department is in departments here. We scroll down on our list of departments and we scroll to Zion Benefits Services. Once we go to Zion Benefit Services, we see the page. Now, notice that the top menu bar has not changed. That will always take you back to our home page and our home website. But inside that website, you'll see another menu bar for the department that you are currently in at the moment. Zion Benefit Services, it says here, and then it has home and all the other tabs that you would need to navigate this website within a website. So we scroll down a little bit, and there we are. You see our graphic here. That look at that gentleman over there. I think I know that guy, Elder Darrell Williams, huh? There he is. And then we come to all the different things that Zion Benefit Services offers. So we have retirement benefit services for pastors. That's what we're going to talk about today. Death benefits for pastors, ministerial relief funds for widows and widowers, risk management, Zion Benefit Insurance. And you can click any of those tabs and it'll take you right to where you need to be. So I believe this is where we want to be. Is that right, Elder?
Yes, please.
All right, so I'm going to click on this and it takes us to now this page gives us a little bit of information. Now, as we said earlier, the company that they're using, right? What was the name of the company again? I'm sorry.
It's called Envoy.
Envoy.
ENVOY. Yes.
Right. So this is a hyperlink and it's purposeful. This is the one thing that takes you off of our website and goes to our splash page, which is on the Envoy website. And again, they put a lot of investment and time and energy to making this look beautiful for us and having the synergy and the aesthetics look good for the A.M.E Zion Church. So again, after reading this little bit of information here, you click on this Enroll Now button. And when you click on the Enroll Now button.
Not yet. I'm going to say something about this paragraph.
Okay. There we go. Go back to that paragraph. There we are.
So here, the first paragraph, it says really, preparing for your future retirement. And they took their time in designing this plan. It's not a regular 403B plan. It's a 403B9 plan, which is specific to churches. And the reason for that, we have several types of ways monies can go into the actual plan. And I love the fact that the B9 plan, because in retirement, pastors, there's some allowances that you have so that in retirement later on, as you're pulling money out of these funds that would normally have been taxable to the rank and file, pastors and ministers have what's called a housing allowance. So a person could say, okay, I built up all this money in my 403B plan. I'm ready to retire. I'm taking out X amount of dollars per month. A portion of that would not be taxable because you can have a credit for housing allowance. That's huge. Now, it's still there. I don't know if the current administration is going to take it away. I have no idea, but it's still there. It's a benefit. I tend to think that they're going to probably leave it alone just because it's not a gigantic benefit for the entire nation, but it does give clergy the opportunity to have some tax benefits on the back end in retirement. Envoy is a Christian-based organization. They literally have a plethora of investment funds, mutual funds, etc., and they created two different plans for us. One's called the basic plan. One's called the choice plan. You hit the enroll now button, please.
I want to interject right here just to make sure that everybody knows if they have any questions that they want to pose to either one of us right now, feel free to do so. Just type in the chat. It'll come right on the screen for us. We'll talk about it live. So feel free. at any moment, whether you're sharing this, looking at this on your cell phone, looking at this on your computer, please just type in the chat with your questions. And I'll even say this: some people are going to watch this later on, and it'll be on demand. We're going to go back and look at the questions that are posed even later on, even tomorrow, and we'll be able to answer those questions as well. So please, if you get a thought in your mind, any comments that you want to put out there, any questions about what you're seeing right now, don't be shy. Type in the chat and pose these questions to us right now. We have the executive director, Elder Darrell Williams from Zion Benefit Services on with us right now. You want to take advantage of this opportunity and ask him any questions that you may have. This is your own personal consultation that you can have publicly in front of everybody. All right, there you go.
Brother Kent, and thank you for that, because I think that we will have a number of these types of calls, be it on A.M.E. Zion TV, or if we do a webinar, whichever one Mr. Kent thinks is best at that point in time. But for tonight, this is great because it's live. And yes, you do have access to ask those hard questions with me online, and I will answer them. I'm not a tax person. I do not give tax advice, but I understand tax benefits as it applies to all retirement planning. Here we go. Now, the new A.M.E. Zion Church Retirement Plan, first of all, it's not that new. It's been around for a number of years. I will say this: for those persons that are pastoring, elders, etc., who understand how it works, are putting in pretty significant amounts of money into the plan. To the degree we're sitting on, I'll bet we have between $500,000 and $600,000 in the plan right now from not a whole lot of pastors. So again, those people who are putting money in, they recognize, okay, this is the plan. Nothing wrong with Envoy. Nothing wrong with the plan. Something wrong with me for not putting money somewhere. So here it can be done, preferably through your paycheck or however you want to set it up. That can be done here. But there's two ways to put money in. We put it in our discipline in the hopes that every church would put some funds aside for their pastor. This is the basic program. And so that's the basic plan is designed for the church or district to support the pastor or the elder once a year with a contribution, $500 per year, $750 per year, whatever amount they wanted the church was putting on behalf of the pastor. The money follows you. It doesn't stay with the church. Let's say, for example, Chitlin Switch A.M.E. Zion Church, as Bishop Thompson used to love to use as an example, in the middle of Port de Wonka, New York. The pastor's there for 5 years. The church says, we're going to put in $1,000 per year in the basic plan for the pastor. It goes in. They choose how it gets invested into some simple basic plans of fixed accounts. Nothing too aggressive at all. Everything in there is designed to be simple and basic. Matter of fact, it was called ERISA. I don't want to get too technical, but ERISA is the Employment Retirement Income Security Act, or ERISA, which is a lot more compliance. So we keep it. That basic plan is not an ERISA plan. It's non-ERISA. The choice plan is ERISA, which means you have literally investment funds that are in the stock market invested in different ways. And I won't cover that in detail tonight. My next class, I will talk about the difference, how the mutual fund is structured, or what's called an ETF, exchange traded fund, or individual stocks versus crypto, all that. We'll cover that at one of our future classes because people just want to know. But tonight, the basic plan is just for the church to say, okay, you know what? We need to do something for our pastor to get this thing started. Here's $500 at annual conference to go to the plan, or $1,000, or wherever the church wants to do. That's the basic program. If you click on the learn more for the basic plan, please, sir.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is it. You can see right now the recommendations were there. You can scroll down a little bit. The recommendations were listed there. Here we go. And so it says, now look at the language. Each church or district is expected.
Expected.
Now, the discipline actually says, not as a mandate, but words were encouraged. Because we just got to do something. Somewhere along the way, you've got to put some skins in the game. So the church, we have a set. Trust me, I pastored and presided elder for 20 years. I get it. I get budgets. I know things are tight. But if your pastor is working hard to pastor, the goal is to have them not worry about these kinds of things. So whatever level the church can do, I'm encouraging you to put something in on the pastor. So the pastors at Chitlin Switch for 5 years, then they get transferred somewhere else. Guess what? This plan is tied to their name and their social security number. That statement follows them.
Right.
If they die early, every nickel in this plan goes to the beneficiaries. As they transfer around, they make sure the new church is making contributions. That pot begins to grow, tied to their name. So if Darin Kent moves to 5 different locations, and over the next 30 years ends up with $500,000 in his plan. Guess what? That's his money,
That's mine.
and that the contributions and the gains. No, the church gets nothing back. This is a benevolent fund that's funded by the church.
Elder, how easy is it to transfer all this information from one church to the next? Like, is
Easy.
it okay? It's
Because the plan's already in place.
right.
It's just a matter of the church saying, okay, here's my statement. Now they send the check directly to Envoy.
Got it. Okay.
It's just that simple.
It's that simple.
Now it's a little bit more involved on the other side. We'll get there momentarily on the choice plan, but
Okay.
this is really very simple. The contributions can be made annually, preferably. If they choose to do it more often than that, they can. Okay. There's a basic form. That's a download. It says basic program contribution form. Scroll down. It's probably on this page.
Yeah, I think.
I'm pretty sure that it
There it
is.
is. Download the form.
Yeah, click on that.
Yep. Click on that, and then
I want to show you how easy the form is.
there it is.
There it is. I mean, it's just that simple. The employers name the church, so Chitlin Switch, Western Episcopal District, the church street address, all of this information is here. Name, social security number, vital, home address. Do not ask why they need my social security. Don't ask that question because they need to have that date of birth, all that personal information, single, married, etc. Date of hire. So all that stuff goes in there. That gets submitted to Envoy, and now Envoy does charge a setup fee of $75 to set up the account. And the reason they do that is because they have a very low annual service charge. That was a trade-off. That was what was done early on, and that was a great trade-off. Now, let me say this. So a few years back, some of you all will recall who's on this call, we did have an infusion of capital that came in from minimum salary fund, and it was decided at that time that all those dollars would be given to multiple pastors to kind of give a jump start. And the assumption was that you'd get this jump start for 200 or 300 pastors to start putting money away in the retirement plan. Well, most of them took that $250. It went inside the plan. They've got it in their name. It's in the plan, but they didn't add to it.
Yeah. So it's just sitting there.
Well, it's sitting there, but it's also going down because they're charging them a $30 per year service fee.
Oh, Lord. It's going in the wrong direction.
Nothing. If you got $10 grand, $30 is enough. You got $250. It takes a few years, and it's over time it will go away. So there is a small fee for the setup charge, but beyond that, minimal fees.
Now, navigating this on the back end, accessing your account, it's seamless, right? You can contact Envoy, you can contact the ZBS office, you can get, connected in case you lost your password or can't get connected to the right people, all of that.
So we actually, for HIPAA reasons, I can access accounts because I'm securities licensed. The office cannot. And so therefore you'll deal directly. Once you're set up, we put it this way to go directly to Envoy. Now, if you get stuck somewhere, you have a question, and you call me directly and we can discuss it. But great question. I think the goal was to let it go. Everything be directly between you and Envoy. That way, the A.M.E Zion Church, we are simply a pass-through. We structure it. We're the employer for all intents and purposes. And it's also on the choice plan. That's designed really for ministers, presiding elders, pastors and presiding elders, because it's coming from the church. The choice plan, on the other hand, is for anyone who works for the church. Go back here. I mean, so if it's a pastor or the presiding elder, because he works for the district, journal officer, works for the A.M.E Zion Church, board of bishops, they work for the A.M.E Zion Church, church secretary. Okay, you've got a musician that's working multiple hours, making a good enough amount of income, and wants to contribute into a plan. They also can go into this. But slow down right there. Stop there. So some language here. Go up a little bit. Right there. Okay. So the investment menu. So you can see right here. You can put in as much as you want. It could be money. It could be voluntary contributions, pre-tax, and or Roth. That's the second bullet point down. I'm sorry. The pre-tax and or Roth contributions. Okay, from the church as well as the individual. The participant, directs where the investment goes. So, say for example, Reverend Smith works for the church. The church says we're going to put in $1,000 per year, and he's also going to put in $1,000 per month, or $200 per month, whatever. They contact Envoy directly. They give them the banking information with the transfer funds direct to the plan, and then they sit down and say, okay, how's it going to be invested? There's an investment menu, which I'll cover in detail in our next session, but you can pick from a myriad of mutual funds and investment funds to choose from.
This is a hyperlink here. You mind if I click on it, or
go ahead and click on it? It may or may not give it to us here.
Okay, yeah, it's got some things.
Yeah, it won't. Okay. You know, good. That's perfect. I wasn't sure we put that in there. Now, this is perfect. Okay, so go back up a little bit.
Yeah.
Now, I don't want to spend too much time here, but you just need to know this gives you a listing of several different types of mutual funds. I wasn't going to go here tonight, but since we're here, let me cover it just briefly.
Yeah.
A mutual fund is what's called a registered investment company. All that means is that one mutual fund may have, on average, 110 different stocks and or bonds in that portfolio. So let's say you said to me, Darin, you say, Reverend Williams, I got $100,000 from wherever. I want to buy Amazon stock.
Right.
And I say, great, buy Amazon stock, but you're going to be doing one thing every day. You're going to be looking at up, down. Is it up? Is it down? Do I keep it? Do I sell it? Because you're watching one stock. A mutual fund invests on average of 110 different stocks and or bonds in a particular sector of the investment world. So here's a listing of different mutual funds. You've got U.S. world funds, bond fund, and a bond is different from stock. A stock fund is more risky. A bond fund is more conservative. A stock fund might make 10, 15, 20% any given year. It can lose the same thing too. A bond fund may only do 4, 5, 6, 7% rate of return. And if it has a bad year, it might break even. So much less risky. A small blend fund is a blending of stocks and or bonds. A mid-cap fund, value and blend. Similar, and again, a mid-cap versus a large cap versus a small cap, different risk categories. I won't cover detail right now, but a large cap fund is much more conservative than a small cap fund. All right.
Yeah, but I think that to really not to go too much further into this, we're running low on time here. But it's to basically say you have options, right? When you're going into this space, your options are available to you, and this is a conversation that you would have after you have made the consideration to actually put your money into this retirement plan. Then you would go into this space if you chose the choice plan, right?
That's exactly correct. And then we can even give you figures based upon what's the historical performance been. Remember earlier we talked about 6% versus 8%. So you're going to say, okay, I've got 20 years to go, or 25 years to go, or 10 years to go. I want to pick a fund that's been earned in a certain rate of return for a window of time to help me get to my goal, because I know it's been doing 8% for the last 10 years.
Right.
Pretty good place to be.
That's a great. Yeah. Oh, yep. I'll go back down. Yeah.
There we go. Okay. So I love these. There's two different managed models, faith-based and risk-based. This is important. That's one of the reasons we picked Envoy. So first of all, target date fund simply says, okay, we're going to invest in a bunch of mutual funds or bonds or stocks, etc., with the target date of 2020, 2030, 2040, 2050. Between the 2030, 2050, which one's going to be more aggressive in the market?
The earlier one, 2030, right?
Well, no, 2050, because you have more years to work with.
Oh, okay.
2030 is only 5 years away. So because that's a target date within 5 years, they're going to dial back and say, okay, we'll make sure we're making money for 5 years. Can't afford to have a bad year in there, because a bad year takes longer to recoup. So 2030 fund is a safer, more conservative fund. The 2040 fund, a little bit more growth driven. A 2050 fund says, hey, we got 25 years, so we know the markets are going to be up over time.
Okay.
So that type of fund is going to be riskier. Faith-based means,
you need to be more aggressive if you have less time, but it's the opposite. You need to be less aggressive and take the conservative route with the less time that you have. I understand. Yeah,
that's correct. Faith-based means these investment funds here, they don't invest, like, for example, alcohol companies, tobacco companies, anything that might be against our religion, faith, morality, etc. Risk-based is like, hey, get it out there. I see the performance. I'll pray over it first and let it do its thing.
Right.
Ironically, Envoy has done an amazing job. I did a comparison between the faith-based target dates and the risk-based, and they aren't too far apart, which was amazing because usually, historically, your socially conscious funds always they're always 3 or 4 or 5% below the market.
Wow.
And I've used the S&P 500 kind of as a good indicator of the U.S. market. And so when you think about what it's done, averages 14% per year over time. So if someone says, "Gee whiz, I'm in a faith-based fund that did 11," frankly, that's great. Stay there. You feel good, and and you're investing in things that you care about.
Yeah. So Envoy is doing a fantastic job of allowing you to still be in a faith-based target fund, right? And still make a good amount of money on your money, right?
That's correct. Because if they weren't good funds, I tell them to drop them.
Yeah.
Well, they can keep them there. I just wouldn't recommend them. But that's where I have a client. She's like, she won't put anything that's not socially conscious.
Yeah.
Period.
We've got to worry about, you mentioned Amazon earlier. We got to see about who we're investing in those areas as well.
That's exactly correct. So therefore, our plan is designed around Christian-based moral thinking. So you have an option. You have a choice. Okay. Mm-hmm. Scroll down a little further there, Darin.
Yeah. Okay. This is also very interesting. Let me see.
This gives you a little bit more. Yep. Risk-based plus.
No question.
Get out there a little further.
Listen, I really know I'm not the only one receiving this information and getting good knowledge from Elder Williams right now. Come on now, in the chat. If you have any questions about what you see right now, put it in the chat and we'll get it right on the screen and he'll be able to answer this question live. All right, keep going, Elder Williams.
Okay, I love this page because it gives you some 2050 target dates that are aggressive or moderate or conservative. Conservative means probably all bonds. Okay, so and bonds have risk. They're super safe, but you're not going to make a lot of money there.
Right.
So 2050, my thing is like, well, you know what? Hey, if you got that long to wait, go ahead and put it out there because and if it has a bad year or that fund does poorly, they'll make adjustments. So we pay a fee, tiny fee, for investment advisors inside that 2050 target date aggressive strategy fund, and what they do is they buy sell. They're in there buying. We got rid of 3 funds last year, or at least they did, and I had agreed with them because those were poor performing funds. Wow. They got rid of them, liquidated them, moved them somewhere else. So that's what we pay them that less than 1% per year fee inside the plan for.
Okay. You don't even see aggressive in 2040, 2030, 2020. It doesn't even, is it 2020? Obviously, it's not there.
Yeah, because it's just too soon.
It doesn't even exist. It's not, they don't even try to go down that direction. Wow, that's so interesting. Yeah.
That's going this route. You can also pick individual funds as well. They've also got about 20 different individual funds. Someone says, "I like American funds. I like Fidelity."
Yeah.
What's in the menu for those areas?
You can get real specific.
The beauty of this is just easier to make. It's too much of a headache. I can't figure out where to go.
Right.
Let's just be, and then over time you can always make changes.
Right.
Adjust it over time. Okay. You can scroll on down there.
Yep, and that's it. That's
it. Okay.
All right.
So that's the 2 plans. Now the enrollment process for the choice plan is lengthy. There's a longer application, but you click it online. It literally links you to Envoy. Fill it all very similar paperwork, but much more information is required. Okay, to go into the choice plan. It says get started now, and once you're in there, it goes into it's a lot of data.
I see. All right.
Okay.
Continue, and yep, here's the form. This is it.
There it is.
Yep. And you keep hitting continue, so I would imagine it's
several pages. It's several pages. But once it's in there, it's set up, and it hyperlinks to them directly. And then, if you pay for it through your payroll at the church or through your checking account, you pick if it's pre-tax or after-tax, etc. That's how that basically works.
Okay. And again, if you're needing any help and assistance just filling this out, you would contact Envoy, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Got it. Okay. All right. Envoy is good. Fantastic.
All right. So if you're thinking to yourself, it sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the catch? Well, don't have that mindset because we don't ask where's the catch for Fidelity.
Of course.
We work for corporate America or Vanguard We don't ask the. So this is the same exact plan. Work for Kaiser Hospital. Same plan, 403B plan. So we happen to pick Envoy because they work directly with churches in particular, and they
Yeah.
have some really large accounts at some really big churches that put away huge amounts of money. Our goal is to get there.
So now, getting creative with it, right? What are some creative ways that a pastor, I'm sorry, a church can invest in their pastor, right? I mean, they have what are the events that go on during your calendar year? You know, a pastor's appreciation day. Wouldn't that be a great moment? Like, you want to give $250, but listen, we're going to put this inside your basic program for you, and then we're going
Good
to do.
question.
You know, are there moments that we should really be taking advantage of, that churches can say, listen, I really want to invest in my pastor, and I think this is a great idea. When should I do it?
Yeah, I think that the plan said on the basic plan, once a year, which is generally right around annual conference. You go to annual conference, you make a contribution. I know some Episcopal areas require that the church brings their deposit. Our sister churches do that. CME, A.M.E, they show up at annual conference with a check.
Wow.
When they turn in their report, they
Wow.
drop off a check for the contribution that is being done. Okay, and so that's a way to do it. So that's one way. If a church is struggling financially but really needs to do something, yeah, the church's pastor's anniversary, great way to do it, because I think the danger becomes the pastor needs the money because they just need the money right now, versus saying, you know what, I need to put something away for retirement.
Right.
Therefore, I'm not going to take. I want to pass his anniversary, but people, they may give more because now the pastor's being more diligent with regards to his stewardship.
Yeah.
He's thinking long term versus the money comes out to him right away. It's spent, on whatever. So I think churches and members may do more at a pastor's appreciation to fund their annual retirement contribution for that. So that's something, again, I like the idea of that, figuring out ways to put money away for the pastor through that mechanism.
Right. And it's we saw 250, we saw 500, we saw 1,000, but it can be any amount. Am I right or wrong?
Correct.
Like, what you can start with 50, right?
Yeah, I think the minimum might be 100, but which is
okay.
Which is, I mean, it's $75 to set it up, so at least 100. But even that's a little small. I would probably say you're better off doing a decent little chunk, at least 250.
Yeah.
That's minimal, but then stay consistent with that every single year. And if you do that, again, everyone recognizes, okay, we're just going to be, responsible. We're going to be responsible citizens for our pastor. And there's a church somewhere, I won't say where it was. They have about 19 members. The trustee chair called me directly and told me they want to put away, it was a decent amount of money into their pastor's retirement plan. Mm-hmm. And I said, why are you so motivated to do this for your pastor? He says, we are a small church, but everyone tithes.
Wow.
We as a church have no bills.
Wow. Look at that.
And therefore, people have no, so as they tithe, so they have extra resources. Come on, somebody. Malachi says, if you tithe, there'll be meat in the house. Well, not to get in that, because I'm here because my pastor's hat now. If we're obedient in our giving,
that's right.
Then the church has resources to do something more, nothing crazy, but just do more on scale for the pastor. Mm-hmm. My desire is to get to a place where we've got resources in Zion Benefit Services to be able to fund a chunk of money in a benevolent fund to help pastors who are already 30 years in, with 5 or 10 years to go, and to be able to get to a place. I don't even know how it's going to happen. I'm just praying, Lord, you open that door to be able to say, you know what, you're retiring. Here, instead of giving you the life insurance policy that pays when you die, here's a check for X amount. We love you. God bless you, on top of whatever else you may have going on. We want to get to that place. And I think we can get there. That's one of the reasons I took on this role, is so that pastors can focus on pastoring and not worry about these financial matters and the insurance matters. Focus on saving souls and then watch God do the
What
rest.
what do we need to do, Elder? We've heard all this great information. We need a response. We need a call to action. Tell us exactly what we need to do from this point on to be able to take advantage of this amazing opportunity.
So essentially, Darin did a great job. We had the website up. Go to the website, pull up the retirement plan, go to ZBS, go all the way down, scroll down, click on the box, sign up, fill out the form, submit it, talk with your trustees, your officers, etc. And if you're an officer on this call or trustee, you tell your pastor, fill this form out. The church, we're going to do this. If you get stuck, call the office. We'll give you a call back and help walk you through the process. But everything's designed to go between you and Envoy directly. And we did it for a reason. So we are not out of compliance, handling in between funds. These dollars have to go between. Now, a lot of churches send their check to us. We send it right directly to Envoy. It did happen. Trust me, it happens. It's just easy. It happens. But we make sure they're signed up first.
Right. And they can take it directly out of your check if you so choose. You can, all of that could be done virtual, ACH payments, check, money order. Yes. They could do all of that, right?
Good question. Money order I would avoid completely because it's not the same. If you're going to go pre-tax, for example, you need to be a W-2. Okay. Because pre-tax is a different dynamic, and you're looking at, from a tax standpoint, because that means year end, you're going to say, I made contributions into a 403B plan, so my taxable income is a little lower because you don't pay tax on the contribution portion. If it's after tax, a little cleaner. You're 1099, so it just, again, you want to make sure that, first of all, the monies go into the plan. And which box you check, if you're W-2, you're going to go pre-tax or after tax. If it's not W-2, it's probably going to be after tax. And that's fine. Because it doesn't change the investments. It doesn't change the growth opportunity. It's still there. And if you do after tax, all the earnings are tax sheltered until you pull it out later on. Or you use the word tax deferred, tax sheltered, tax deferred, so you don't pay tax on the gains until it's time to pull it out. But if you're a pastor, quick example, and we're going to wrap it up, I know we do. A pastor has $500,000 built up in the plan. Maybe they put in $300,000. It grew by $200,000 in gains. Now they got this $500,000 chunk of money at retirement, and he's 65 or 70, and begins to pull out $30,000 per year. A good portion of that is not taxable because he's a pastor, and there's a housing allowance.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, all right. Those are the tricks.
Huge. So, and again, and you can drive that number when the churches make contributions.
Got you. See, you get this nowhere else. Listen, Zion. He's putting y'all on. He's saying it without saying it, but he's saying it though. Okay. I hope y'all hear it. Listen, this has been fantastic. I'm just, going through my, thinking outside the box, like when are the opportune moments to have these investments? I know a lot of retired members, sometimes they like to, give money straight to their pastor, right? And sometimes that's allowed? Like if it's a gift that they want to be able to provide, they would maybe give it to the church, and then the church would have that moment where they present this sort of an option to the pastor. Could that be done?
Good point. Absolutely. Matter of fact, it's kind of like having a grandchild. Instead of buying them gifts, they put money in their 529 college plan.
Right. There you go. Same thing.
So by giving it to the church for the purposes of going into the retirement plan, then you as a giver has a tax deduction as well.
Look at that. It's mutually beneficial. Listen, I could probably think of some more, but we're running out of time. But this has been enlightening for me. I know I got to make some adjustments myself. I know I got to get with you myself and sit down and talk through just my own personal finances and things of that nature. But I'm not alone. I'm sure there's a whole bunch of people that were watching on today. We were in the 30s and 20s that are watching, people in and out. And I know that people are going to be watching this on demand in the future. This has been exclusive A.M.E. Zion content from the Zion Benefits Services Department. Listen, not even my idea. This gentleman right here said we need to get the word out to the people of Zion and beyond to let them know exactly what we have at our our disposal. And I said, absolutely, Elder, we can do this anytime you want. He's alluded to it, the fact that this is only part one, and there will be part 2 and 3 and more of them to come. And I'm just hoping that we were able to give you a little bit, just a taste of everything that we have regarding the 403B plan for the A.M.E. Zion Church with our Zion Benefit Services Department. Please invest in us, invest in Zion, invest in what we already have. You see, it's a good deal. We are being transparent. We've opened it up for questions. You can call Zion Benefit Services. The phone number is on the screen. You can email him. You can speak to Elder Williams, am I right, directly if you needed to at any moment. Yes, he's making himself fully available for virtual consultations, for in-person consultations when he's at the headquarters, and we can get you the right information, everything that you need if you wanted to just take this offline. If you didn't feel like publicly putting your information in the chat, we understand that as well. So we look forward to the emails and the phone calls that are going to come from this in the future. And we pray God's blessings upon each and every one of you for listening to this today. Please hit that share button. Share this content with your churches. Share this content at your district meetings and conferences and all type of conferences, annual conferences. Go to the LTIs. Bring this same video and play it for everybody. It should just be that simple, where they could go back, look at this great information, ask the questions, and contact the ZBS office if need be for more information on how you get connected to the 403B plan. Any parting words that you might have there, Elder?
I would say that it's been a blessing. As you can tell, I'm very passionate about this whole subject matter. I love talking about it, and I can go for hours. But we will definitely have multiple sessions. When we schedule the next one, you know about it ahead of time. And the action plan now, go online, start somewhere. Do not worry about, oh my God, there's tariffs. Trump's causing tariffs. It was red arrows yesterday. It was green arrows today. Forget all that. Start putting something away. You want to stay out of the market? Stay conservative? No problem. Still with the conservative fund. We discussed those tonight. Start somewhere. And I promise you, if you start somewhere, you'll be happy in 10 years. 15 years, 20 years. And if you die early, your family gets all the money anyway. Either way, it stays in your house.
Amen. Blessings upon blessings. Thank you, Elder, for allowing me to host you on today. This has been a blessing to me and my family as well. And I thank you for this. I can't wait for the next go round.
Thank you so much.
Now, I'm not going to act like I didn't see it early. Get back to your meal, whatever you were eating over there in the corner.
Oh, my wife snuck in here and threw a little snack in front of me. Snack and talk at the same time.
but yeah, she knows what you need to keep going. Amen. We love her for that. Thank you so much. All right. God bless you, Elder. Take it easy. We'll see you on the next one.
All right.